So, when I say the word battery, what pops into your head? Probably a fist fight, right? A punch, a shove, something that definitely leaves a mark. But in the eyes of the law, it's actually something way broader and, honestly, a lot more interesting. Today, we're going to tear down that common idea and show you what a lethal battery really is. So, let's put your intuition on the spot with a little real-world legal puzzle.
Okay, look at these two scenarios. On the left, you've got a teacher in the middle of a chaotic fire drill. On the right, a waiter at a hotel buffet. Now, in one situation, there's direct physical contact. In the other, the person's body isn't touched at all. So, which one is the legal battery? You might think the answer is obvious, but the law has a fascinating twist here, and getting your head around it is the key to this whole thing.
To solve our little puzzle, we can't just go with our gut feeling. Nope, we've got to think like lawyers. And that means we need to break down the formal legal definition of battery piece by piece to find out what really makes it tick.
At its heart, battery has 4 key ingredients. First, you need an intentional act. Someone has to mean to do it. Second, that act has to result in some kind of contact. Third, and this is super important, that contact has to be either harmful or offensive. And finally, it's got to be done without consent. Now, harmful and intentional, those are pretty easy to get. But contact and offensive, that's where the law gets really cool, and that's what we're about to dive into.
Here's the official lingo, the kind of stuff you'd find in a legal guide called the Restatement of Torts. It pretty much just confirms our simple steps: an intentional act that causes contact, and that contact is either harmful or offensive. See that tiny little word on the screen? Or? That little word is a powerhouse. It means the contact doesn't actually have to physically hurt you to be a battery.
So what does offensive actually mean in a courtroom? Well, it's not about your personal pet peeves. The law uses what's called an objective test. It asks, would a normal, reasonable person in that same situation find this contact an insult to their dignity? And this is a really big deal, because it means the decision isn't based on one person's emotions, but on a shared social understanding.
Okay, now that we're armed with these legal definitions, let's get back to our puzzle. First up, the teacher and the parent on the stairs during that fire drill. This comes from a real case, Wallace v. Rosen, and it's the perfect way to test that offensive contact rule we just talked about.
You know, the court in the Wallace case used this simple but just brilliant idea about how we all get along in society. This quote nails it. The law gets that we can't all live in our own personal bubbles. Getting bumped on a crowded bus or someone tapping your shoulder to get past, these aren't batteries. They're just part of living in a crowded world. We basically give an unspoken okay to these kinds of ordinary, necessary contacts every single day.
So let's run this through our checklist. Was there intentional contact? First row tells us, yep, absolutely, the teacher meant to touch the parent. But here's the million-dollar question. Was it offensive? And as you can see in row 2, the court said no. Given the situation, a loud, urgent fire drill, that touch was reasonable. It was socially justifiable. So the result, at the bottom, not a battery.
Okay, so one half of our puzzle is solved. The touch during the fire drill was not a battery. But what about the waiter who snatched the plate, where no one was physically touched at all? For that, we turn to our second case, Fisher versus Carrousel Motor Hotel, to see how wild the law's definition of contact can get.
Whoa. Okay, now this is where our whole understanding of battery gets turned upside down. Just look at that powerful conclusion from the court. It says that grabbing something out of someone's hand is an invasion of their person. I mean, that's a radical idea. It means the law isn't just protecting your physical body. It's protecting your personal space and even the stuff that's directly connected to you. So how far does this whole extension of the person idea go? Well, you might be surprised. Courts have said it includes all kinds of things. An object you're holding, like Mr. Fisher's plate, the clothes you're wearing, a cane you're using to walk. And get this is from a real case, even the horse you are riding. Legally speaking, all of those things can be considered part of your person when we're talking about battery.
All right, let's apply our legal test here one last time. Was there intentional contact? Yes, because the law says snatching that plate is contact with an extension of Mr. Fisher. And was it offensive? Oh, you better believe it. The court pointed out that the employee yelled a racial slur while doing it, making it a massive offense to his personal dignity. So the result is crystal clear, a battery. And just like that, our puzzle is totally solved.
So we did it. We solved the puzzle. A touch that wasn't a battery and a non-touch that absolutely was. What's the deep principle here that connects these two seemingly opposite results? What is the law of battery really all about?
Here it is. This is the single most important idea to take away from all of this. The law of battery. It isn't just about preventing broken bones or black eyes. At its very core, it's about protecting our personal dignity. It's the law's way of standing up for our right to move through the world without having our personal space, our very sense of self, violated in an offensive way.
And because it's all about dignity, you end up with this really surprising result. How much physical harm do you need to sue for battery? Zero. None. Zilch. Mr. Fisher wasn't physically hurt at all when his plate was snatched, but he still won his case. Why? Because the harm was to his dignity. And in the eyes of the law, that is an injury that deserves protection.
Look, this idea of protecting dignity isn't just some dusty legal theory from old books. It basically creates this invisible shield that you carry around with you every single day. So what does all this mean for you right now?
What it all boils down to is this. The law of battery gives legal force to your personal bubble. It establishes your right to personal space, to your dignity, and it protects you from unpermitted, offensive contact, not just to your skin, but also to the things so closely connected to you that they basically become a part of you.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. We've seen that the law protects a simple plate in your hand. But in our modern world, our digital world, where does our person really end? What else is so intimately connected to us that an invasion of it should feel like an invasion of us?